It's extremely important for your sub-production ServiceNow instances to closely resemble your production instance as best as possible. By keeping them in sync, you enable your development teams to work in environments that are nearly identical to what your end users are experiencing every day. In order to accomplish that goal, you'll need to become familiar with the ServiceNow System Clone application, which is available out of box on all ServiceNow instances. In the simplest definition, the cloning feature allows you to copy specific pieces of one environment and essentially paste it on another. Of course, as you might have guessed, nothing is ever that easy, so let's buckle up and take a deeper look into ServiceNow cloning. Hi, my name is Alan Andreas, and welcome to Allenovation. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of the ServiceNow cloning process. To help us get there, we'll give an overview of the cloning application to include a walkthrough of the clone request form. We'll talk about the concept of preserving data and excluding tables. We'll explore important information related to backing up development so that it's not lost. And lastly, we'll reveal 10 bonus tips that cover some important information we think you should know when working with the cloning application. Not everyone gets to work with the cloning application. This responsibility is usually left to one or two people, usually a senior system administrator, but for some organizations this could be their very first clone, and equally as stressful for some ServiceNow professionals, this could be their very first clone. For those interested in growing their ServiceNow career, you should understand the importance of cloning and the basic steps to accomplish it regardless of if you're the responsible one or not. When we talk about the importance of cloning, this information isn't just for you, but it's also for the platform owner, platform manager, or any other stakeholders involved with the ServiceNow platform. You'd be surprised by the number of stakeholders who don't support cloning and will refuse to do them. We've heard all sorts of excuses such as, something always ends up breaking after the clone, developers say they can't do work due to a freeze, or everything seems fine, I don't see the need to clone. Instead, they push it off. In those situations, being able to explain the value and benefit of cloning will be critical to long-term platform success. Here are a few benefits of cloning you can mention to those stakeholders to try and get them on board. The development that's completed in sub-production environments has a higher chance of working as intended in production. There are reduced deployment risks as the commits have minimal or no errors. And there's faster issue resolution as developers have a higher chance of reproducing the issues seen in production and can quickly work on a resolution. Be sure to check out the link in the description for even more benefits. For some of you, you may be wondering how to go about requesting a clone. Is this something you need to do in your ServiceNow support account? Do you need to submit a ticket? Do you request the clone on the instance that you want cloned over? The answer to all of those questions is no. To request a clone, you'd want to navigate to System Clone, Request Clone on the source instance, usually a production instance, that you want to copy from. On the clone request form, you'll see a few fields you'll need to complete. The profile field works like a template where you can select a profile with pre-selected values. This is helpful if you have different requirements for different instances. For example, maybe you clone a near identical copy of production to your sandbox instance, but when cloning production to your development instance, you want to skip copying all of the users. If your instances have that level of variance, then this feature can be very beneficial. The target instance field is where you'll specify which instance you want to clone to. It's important to note that you'll need to supply a target instance URL and credentials that have admin privileges. Additionally, the system property glide.db.clone.allow_clone_target will need to be set to true on the target instance, otherwise you'll see an error letting you know that the destination does not allow clone requests. Next, you'll select the preferred start time for your clone. The time selected is evaluated against the target instance, and if there's any conflicts, such as the target instance receiving a patch or some other change, you'll be prompted to adjust your start time. The last field at the top of the form is to identify who should receive an email notification upon completion of the clone. If necessary, expand the Options section of the form to reveal additional configuration options. We'll discuss the Exclude table setting in the next section of this video. For the remainder of the selections, most of these options are self-explanatory, but we do want to quickly talk about a few of the options on the right-hand side. Within an instance, some tables, such as task, metric instances, and PA scores, can be very large due to the number of records involved. When cloning, you'll want to decide if you need to clone all of that data or would the last 90 days be sufficient. When cloning to a target instance that may have active development, it's important to let your developers know that they need to back up their work, whether that's committing it to source control or exporting it. As an additional layer of protection, you can select to preserve in-progress global update sets, but keep in mind that this applies only to update sets that are in the global scope and were created in the past 90 days. We'll talk more about backing up development later in the video. If you'd like to preserve the users and related user tables on the target instance and exclude, meaning not copy, the users and related user tables from this source instance, you can check this box. There have been reports of this feature not working properly in the past, and so our recommendation is to create the specific preserve and exclude records, which we'll cover in just a moment, instead of relying solely on this option. Lastly, you can select how often to clone the target instance. Selecting none means that this is an ad hoc clone for just one time, or you can choose between weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Unless you're cloning to a sandbox instance, you probably don't want to select any option here. One of the most important things to consider when working with the clone application is to decide what data from the source instance should or should not be included, as well as what data on the target instance should or should not be cloned over. To set yourself up for success, you'll want to familiarize yourself with the concept of preserving data and excluding tables. Both are defined on the source instance, but apply to the cloning process over the selected target instance. Preserving data means that you want to protect the data on the target instance so that it's not overwritten. For example, you may want to retain user preferences on the target instance so that they're not overwritten by the user preferences on the source instance. If this is the case, you navigate to System Clone, Clone Definition, Preserve Data, and look at the records in the list. You'll want to first check if you already have a record for that table. In this example, we don't, so we'll create one by clicking New, we'll give it a name, and select the table. If necessary, you can also provide a condition to further define which specific user preference records are preserved. For this scenario, we want to keep all of them, so we won't provide a condition. Once you've carefully set up your preservers, it's time to review what data you might want to exclude. Excluding data means that you'll skip bringing that data from the source instance to your target instance. A common use case is to exclude users and groups. When choosing to exclude data, it's essentially as if you're telling the system that you want to bring an empty table down to your target instance. If you don't have any preservers set up for that same table, then you really will have an empty table in the end. To help you understand these concepts a bit further, let's walk through a few examples of what would happen to the data on my target instance user table depending on what preserve and/or excluding data options I configure. For example 1, I've created a preserve record for my sysuser table, but I did not create an exclude record. After the clone is finished, my target instance users are still there, but I now have all of these source instance users as well. In example number 2, I've still got my preserve record for the sysuser table, but this time I did create an exclude record. After the clone, I have all the users that were originally on the instance, just like example 1, and this time I don't have any other users from my source instance. In example 3, I do not have a preserve record for the sysuser table, but I do have an exclude record. After the clone, I'm left with a completely empty sysuser table. In this last example, I don't have a preserve record, nor do I have an exclude record. This means that after the clone, I only have the source instance users and no target instance users remain. As you can see, things can get out of control quickly if you're not paying attention to what data you're preserving and what tables you're excluding. For users, there's far more data you need to consider preserving and/or excluding, such as user roles, groups, group membership, group roles, and role contains records. One of the most common mistakes that people make is not properly communicating the clone schedule, as well as not ensuring that your developers have backed up their work. If your developers are working with custom applications, they should commit their work to source control or the application repository to ensure their work is backed up properly. If the version that was installed on the source instance was different than the version installed on the target instance, then the source instance version will be what is installed after the clone is finished. There can be a number of scenarios related to custom app development and versions, so we'll include a link in the description below that walks you through all of the possible post-cloning results. For development that is packaged in update sets, if it's not already committed on your source instance, your developers should get into the habit of setting their update set to complete and then exporting them prior to the clone. Once the clone is finished, your developers can simply load those update sets back in, preview them, commit them, and then continue on with their development. Earlier, we spoke about the option to preserve in-progress global update sets, and so you might be wondering why we're suggesting that your developers back up their work when you have this option available to you. As mentioned earlier, that option only applies to update sets in the global scope and were created, not updated, in the last 90 days. For all other development and update sets, your developers would need to back all that work up. As you can imagine, this can create confusion and easily lead to a situation where some development work is lost. On top of that, it's not ideal to solely rely on the preserve update set feature, as there have been situations where it just didn't work properly. So, to ensure there's no confusion and to help your developers create proper muscle memory, we recommend that they should always back up their work no matter what. We've scoured over social media, read over various forums, interviewed a few peers, and of course, using our own experience over the years, have compiled a list of bonus tips we'd like to share. If your source instance is on a different ServiceNow version than the target instance, your target instance will be changed to the ServiceNow version of the source. Don't forget to review this system property that allows the instance to be cloned over. This is especially true if you are cloning over your production instance from a non-production instance. You probably don't want to leave your production instance eligible to be cloned over again, right? For tests associated with the Automated Test Framework, or ATF, a lot of people wonder what you need to do to back them up when cloning from production down to a non-production environment. It's recommended to actually promote those tests to production, but set them to inactive. Once you've cloned from production to your other instance, you can simply set those tests back to active and you're good to go. For ATF tests that haven't made it to production yet, those are the ones that you want to back up the update sets prior to cloning. Did you know about the Clone Admin Console? This is a free ServiceNow store app that enhances the user experience when cloning, as it features several additional tools you can leverage, such as visibility into individual clone progress, access to real-time clone activity, and the ability to enable the on-demand backup option all within this console. Speaking of backups, unless your instance is on the on-demand backup list, the clone from that instance that'll be used is the last one taken, which could have been from a prior day. If it's critical that you create a fresh backup so that that backup is the one that is used for your clone, you'll need to utilize the Clone Admin Console or contact ServiceNow support to be added to the on-demand backup list. Keep in mind that this will increase the length of time the cloning process will take. Can you roll back a clone? Technically, yes, but this should be absolutely avoided as much as possible. In the extremely rare scenario where you do need to roll it back, you can navigate to System Clone, Live Clones, Clone History, select the clone to roll back, and then under the related links, click Rollback. A pop-up window will appear that will ask you to provide a reason and confirm that you do, in fact, want to roll back the clone. Keep in mind that this must be done within 7 days of the clone taking place, and we strongly recommend contacting ServiceNow technical support for urgent assistance. How often should you clone? It varies per organization and environment, but if you do it too often on your dev instance, it can be disruptive. But for your pre-prod, it probably should be monthly. At a minimum, you'd want to clone prior to any platform upgrade, but it's highly recommended to do it more often than that. The most common clone frequency suggestion is to clone every 3 months. You should keep sensitive data on your source instance in mind when cloning, as it may need to be excluded or addressed in post-clone cleanup scripts. If you've already scheduled your clone, but you need to adjust the preserver or exclude table records at the last minute, will those changes be honored for that scheduled clone? Yes. The preserve and exclude table records are not reviewed until the clone process has begun, so you're clear to make any adjustments prior to it starting. When it comes to predictive intelligence, you may want to preserve your trained machine learning, or ML, solutions data when cloning. These ML solutions are saved as attachment records, but commonly attachments are excluded. To ensure your ML solutions are preserved and included with that clone, you'll want to set this system property to true. Wow, that was a lot of information. To summarize, here's your key takeaways. You should now have a good understanding of the ServiceNow cloning process and the clone request form. You've gained insight into the concepts of preserving data and excluding tables. You've learned about the importance of ensuring that your developers back up their work properly. And lastly, you are armed with 10 additional bonus tips to help your cloning journey be as successful as possible. If you have any questions or you'd like to share additional tips about cloning, feel free to leave your comment below and let us know your thoughts. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and if you enjoy ServiceNow content like this, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and of course, share it with others. Once again, my name is Alan Andreas, host of Alan Innovation, and until next time, take care.